So we go, hello and welcome to Transfer Talk with FDT-TV. I'm Ian.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Phil.
And we're all happy to be back, which is very, very good.
Boy.
We do have a little announcement to make. And someone is very happy. Me and Phil both think it's a step too far that he's actually gone and bought it. But because Arsenal won the FA Cup, Mike has bought himself a trophy.
No, that's not
the celebrating a momentous season.
It's not.
That's the reason I've got the why I'm happy we won the FA Cup, because we won it in that shirt. And look at that, it looks so beautiful.
No, the reason Mike has got a trophy is because he did win the points. So well done, Mike.
I'd like to thank my mum, my dad for having me, you guys for putting up with me. But it was a close season. It was a very close season. So I finished off on 59.5. Phil come second on 58, and Ian a very close third on 57.
Do you know what annoyed me? At half time, I was winning.
Yep.
I had all the results at half time, and considering that I think the last couple of weeks I did better than the rest of the season. So
I liked your comments when he just said, "Oh, can we just stop the season now?" And I was like, "Nope."
Yeah.
But I have to thank Liverpool for scoring, because they done me a favour and clinched the title for me.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, Liverpool.
But
you're welcome.
In fact, it wouldn't have been close, though, would it? If Phil had done the whole season.
Yeah.
He would have won by about 50 points. So, I mean, we haven't got anything in terms of a forfeit yet, but I think it will come with the next challenge that I'll be quite heavily subsidised, or not subsidised, is that the right word?
It is now.
I'll
You'll be feeling the pain.
Yeah. So we'll figure that out in one of our upcoming videos. But on to tonight. We have, obviously, transfers. So we're going to do all the outs from our clubs, who we think we should get rid of and why. And then we will go on to who we've been linked with in the media, and who we want to be in our squads next season. So a little bit of like a dream team as well. So we're on West Ham's page at the minute. We've got a nice West Ham logo and some hammers up. So we'll start there. We'll start off in goal. David Martin. Get rid of him. He's old. We don't need him. We've got some young keepers. Get rid of him. Simple as that. No other reason. He did all right when he came in for us, but he's not going to be used to get him off the wage bill. Next up, Stumpy Joe, as we know him here, or Roberto, as everyone else knows him. Think the reasons are pretty obvious as to why we're getting rid of him. He's shite.
Can we just call him Dracula from now on?
Dracula? Why Dracula?
Because he's scared of crosses.
Mate, he's scared of everything. I would then go with Masuaku. There's been a lot of media attention around getting rid of Cresswell, but I think keep Cresswell, get rid of Masuaku. I think we're going to command a higher fee for him, so it gives you a little bit more in the budget, especially being as we've been told there's no money to spend unless you sell players. Then Fabian Balbuena, I've put a question mark next to him. He was injured most of last season, and he can be good, but he's a bit of a liability since he's come back from injury. So if we can get another defender in to cover his spot, then I'd be more than happy to see him gone. Felipe Anderson was
You really don't rate him, do you?
I don't rate him. I think he had a very good first season, and was he's got
last season.
Last season he's had flashes of brilliance, but he's not consistent. And with West Ham in the way we are, we need players who are hard working for 90 minutes for 38 games of the season, rather than ones who a bit of a flash in the pan, can win a game, but ultimately they don't put in the effort. So get rid of him. I think we get a bit of money for him. He's one of our most high profile players. Next up, Lanzini. I've put a question mark by him as well, because again he has been, I I can't get my words out tonight. He has been good. He can be good for us. Liverpool a couple of seasons ago allegedly were trying to sign him for like 40 million. So you think if we were going to sell him, why did we not sell him them? But he does put in the effort. He's not been great this season. But again, coming back off a long injury. So he's got flashes of brilliance. He's very creative, but he seems to be putting in the work. So that's why I put a question mark there. Next up, one of my favourite West Ham players, I think we should get rid of, Robert Snodgrass. I like him as a player. Seems like a sound bloke, but he's coming to the end of his career, and can he put in the effort for 90 minutes, or is he a sort of half-time player and then he's got to come off? Not too many more now. Jack Wilshere, Jack Wilshere, he's on an astronomical amount of money, so get rid of him. That's the only reason for that. He's not playing, and his injuries haven't come good. So Ajeti, the striker, has been linked with Celtic. Apparently he's going up there, so I don't know if that's already been done, but apparently that's in advanced talks. And last but not least, Jordan Hugill, who we signed. I don't think he's ever played a game. He's been out on loan, and he essentially he's just a bad Andy Carroll. So get rid of him. So that leaves us with about 4 players, but that's what I'd say for West Ham. I don't know if anyone's got any advances of more players we should get rid of.
No, I do have a question just in relation to Lanzini. I think that was the biggest shock out of all of them for me as to why you would want to get rid of him. Because as you said, you have seen flashes of brilliance from him. Granted, he has had a bit of an injury hit season, but would you not want to see if he could...
Oh, yeah, this is why I put a question mark. If we can get a player in who has got a track record for not being injured and can fill that creative void, he's more of a squad player now than he is a first-team starter, especially with Fornals coming in. But I just feel like a lot of the crowd has turned on him. Right. I know West Ham fans, we're a fickle bunch, but he was getting booed from a stadium that had no one in it, because his performances were that bad.
Didn't give him till January and then see how he is.
100%. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a priority to get rid of, but if you've got to raise funds, he's a player who you could say, look, we can get a bit of money for him.
Yeah.
So personally, I wouldn't like to see him go. I'd like to see him stick with him, the crowd get behind him. But I feel like because he's had a fair few bad games, as soon as he does have a bad game, or he misses a pass, or he doesn't control it properly, the crowd will get on him, and then his head will drop, and it will just get worse performances. So that's why I've put a question mark next to him. As to, I don't want to get rid of him, but if we do, it's not the end of the world.
That's fair enough.
Who should we move on to next?
Ian, I had one question.
Go on, go for it.
Talking about outwards for West Ham. So there's talk and rumours around, and it's good just because they're on holiday. But Declan Rice, he's out there partying with all the Chelsea young lads.
I've got a sound effect. I've got a sound effect for this. It's
called fake news.
That's what that's called. So, as I said earlier, it's not, or before we started, it's not one I want to see go. If it does, it will command a ridiculous fee, and I don't think the owners would recover from it. They're all not on the best of terms with the fans anyway, and to sell your star man who looks like he's going to be future England captain, pretty much him and Antonio kept us up last season, especially at Tower end. So to get rid of him, I think, is a mistake. The only way I would is if you went, okay, here's 150 million quid. But I feel like the era of ridiculous transfer fees has come to an end with coronavirus, just because teams have taken a hit on money coming in. So to get money going out again is going to be it. If it does happen, it will be the last day of the season, last day of the transfer window. And this is going to be my impression of every West Ham fan when that does happen. And that will continue throughout the season, and then we'll get relegated.
Headbutting walls.
That's exactly how I think it's going to go. But say that's all my outs for West Ham. We've already got rid of Nketiah. No, not Nketiah. He plays for Arsenal. Ngakia. Ngakia.
How dare you sell one of our players?
Yeah, in fairness, I'd have him up front instead of Hannah. But yeah, no, we've already sold him, and he's turned down the Watford offer as far as I know, because they were offered him less than what we did. So he's probably going to end up in League 2 and never be heard from again. Greedy people, greedy agents. Good job. Let's change. Stop me droning on, shall we? Let's go with
Arsenal, isn't it?
It is Arsenal.
Okay. So these are outs that have kind of already been mentioned. If you see any kind of Arsenal kind of fan social media or anything, there's a lot of talk about these sorts of outs. So I'm probably going over a lot of new ground, but obviously these are my comments surrounding those. So I think one of the first ones that we need to talk about is Mesut Ozil, a player that's on a ridiculously high wage compared to the rest of the club, and isn't getting the performances, or is not even getting game time in order to warrant that that salary. He's obviously fallen out of favour with Mikel Arteta, which is a shame because those two worked together previously. He had a spell under him before we went into lockdown. Obviously wasn't doing enough, hasn't been doing enough in training, otherwise he'd be getting a start. I think one thing as well is that Mikel Arteta is possibly trying to give the shock factor potentially the same as Pep Guardiola did when he went into Manchester City and got rid of Joe Hart.
Yep.
And that was quite a shock to the system when Pep went in, and I do see a kind of a similarity here. Personally, I think it's a shame if he does go, because I really like Mesut Ozil. I do think he potentially has got one more year in him, and if he got a string of starts, would we go back to seeing the best of Mesut Ozil? I don't know. I can't predict the future, unfortunately, but I mean, there have been talks about him potentially going off to a club in Turkey. We've also talked about subsidising his wages if no one wants to come in. If someone wants to come in on a loan deal, there's talks about us subsidising his wages. And there has also been talk about paying off his contract just to get him off the wage book at Arsenal.
Well, a bit like Man United have done with Sanchez.
Yes.
Right. Makes sense.
Yes. The second one I want to talk about is Matteo Guendouzi. He's a player that massively fell out with the manager and the owners of the club after the incident at Brighton, grabbing Maupay around by the neck. I don't think it went down too well with the staff and the management. Didn't apologise for it. When we went to the FA Cup final, at least Mesut Ozil had the decency to wish the boys all the best. Matteo Guendouzi sent a picture saying, "I'm on my holiday."
That's not good.
No. So it's a really poor attitude, which I think is a shame. I think potentially he's definitely got too big for his boots. One of the things that they were talking about is he was saying to Maupay, or saying to some of the Brighton lads, you wish you could earn the same amount of money that I'm on, which I think is a really poor taste considering his age.
And he was saying it to someone who was on more money a week than he was.
But and this is what I mean. It's such a bad attitude.
Yeah.
I think he has had moments of brilliance, certainly at the start of his Arsenal career, but certainly towards the end. Me personally, I would like to see him go, because he was starting to frustrate me from a footballing sense, that a lot of his kind of footballing attitude was sideways and backward passing, which I couldn't stand, and he got knocked off the ball too easily. I think we could get a lot of money for him. There's a lot of clubs that have expressed an interest in him, like PSG, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona. So there are some big teams that potentially see something in him. But to be honest, Mikel Arteta's already kind of laid the ground rules and said, look, I don't want this attitude in here. Off you go. and they're reckoning that, or they've put a price tag on him around about £40 million, and I think that's purely based on his age and his potential. The next transfer is Socrates. He's basically come out and said that he wants more football time, and hasn't really had a look in since we come back from the COVID break. He has come out and said that he's willing to fight for his place within the team, which I think is very admirable. But I think we are looking to listen to offers for him in order to raise transfer funds. And if he wants to get more football, and he's definitely not going to get any game time at Arsenal, then he might as well look elsewhere. Lucas Torreira is another player. Again, hasn't really had a look in since Danny Ceballos has kind of kicked on again after the COVID break. It doesn't really seem to get, or he's not really fitting into the system that Arteta's trying to play. And he's already come out and said that he needs to think about what he wants to do, because he said he's in his footballing prime. He wants to be getting more games, and that potentially means he has to go. And he has expressed an interest to go back to Italy, where he came from. And apparently there are a few clubs that have expressed an interest. I think AC Milan or Inter Milan, one of the Milan clubs, have expressed an interest in him. I think Atletico Madrid was another club that also expressed an interest in him. He did become a bit of a fan favourite, especially scoring against Tottenham. But again, hasn't really one that's found a lot of consistency. And if he wants more football, he potentially has to move on. One of the ones that's kind of hit a bit of a sour note for me is rumours about Alexander Lacazette. Apparently, the rumours are that he could be going to Atletico Madrid for £30 million if Aubameyang signs a new deal, which I think would be a stupid move for Arsenal to let him go. He has been linked with them before, but I did see something the other day with some stats linking around him and Aubameyang playing, and I think it was him and Granit Xhaka. They were talking about, with those three playing in the game, their score percentage or their winning percentage increased by about 30% or something. If he wasn't playing, he's a great hold-up player. Does score the occasional goal. I think he's one that's definitely lacked a bit of confidence, especially this season. And he was our player of the season before, I believe. Yeah. I do really think it'll be a stupid move to let him go. But again, I suppose if he's not going to fit into the new philosophy going forwards, and he's as I said, I think he was supposed to go to Atletico before he came to us, but they were hit with a transfer embargo. So if he has had dreams to play for them, he may want to fulfil those dreams. But I personally would love to see him in an Arsenal shirt next season. And then the last one is good old Emi Martinez. I can't say a bad word about this guy. He's been at the club for 10 years, has been an outstanding player since Bernd Leno got injured. FA Cup winning goalkeeper. He is he's basically come out and said that he wants to be number one, or he doesn't want to be number one. He wants more games, whether that be a number one. I personally think, with the way he finished the season off, he should be our number one going into next season. There have been a few shaky moments from Bernd Leno, and to be honest, I've never felt more confident about an Arsenal goalkeeper than Emi Martinez, just because I think he's a brilliant shot stopper. He knows the club's values, and he had an outstanding end to the season where he had to come in. There was a lot asked of him. He delivered, and I think Bernd Leno has definitely met his match and should be fighting for his place. But he's come out and said, if I don't get more game time, I want to be number one elsewhere, so I'll be going. And if that is the choice he has to make, it'd be a damn shame to let him go, because I think he could potentially be the new Mr. Arsenal, just because the length of time he's been there. Brilliant goalkeeper.
I don't think Leno walks straight back in though, does he? I think Martinez has got a start, and then if he makes a few mistakes, that's when Leno's in with a shout.
That's exactly what I think, and it's a nice problem to have for a manager to have two really good goalkeepers.
Yeah.
But there's been times, as I said, this season where Leno has made some stupid mistakes and cost us goals just from passes out, or I think he come out after one game, conceded a goal. It was like, whoops. You don't do that. I know Emi Martinez, if he'd have done something like that, he'd have been absolutely outraged with himself.
Yeah.
I agree with what you just said. He definitely starts for me next season.
Well, Mike, would you take the opportunity, rather than, this could be seen as annoying, but having two goalkeepers, which they've had some good points this season, but is there better out there that you could try and get? Say, like if Henderson come on to the market, or some of the other young English talents, Ben Foster, Pope, for example, would you not?
They're not young.
Well, Ben Foster isn't, but Pope is. Pope's
27, 28.
Young enough. Still got him for like 6 or 7 years.
Well, not compared to me.
Well, not compared to you.
Goalkeepers go to their 40 nowadays, so he's still got some good 15 years on him.
Yeah.
Well, I personally, I don't think they're better. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think they're better. I just from what I saw from Emi Martinez, towards the only thing I can say he could work on would be his distribution, because sometimes he has a bit of a wayward kick. But his throwing out, his shot stopping, his commanding of the box, he'll be one of these goalkeepers that go up, and Ian, we've spoke about this previously, about you take the player and the ball.
Yeah, you can see he plays with passion. He wants to play for the shirt, doesn't he?
He wants to be there, which is what you want, isn't it? If you've got two goalkeepers in that position, then that's an ideal situation.
In answer to your question, no, I wouldn't want to take anyone else. I think we've got sufficient cover in goal.
I do have another question for you. In relation to Guendouzi.
Yes.
When he first came on the scene, I think we all said this geezer can be absolute pucker here. He can be a world beater, and he's such a young age. Do you think he's going to go the way of? Do you think this will be an eye opener for him, that he's got to change his attitude, or do you think he'll go in the way of Ravel Morrison and be sort of one of the best players ever not to be good?
I think we can put what's his name, Nicholas Bentner, up in that category as well. Potentially, I think he definitely needs to be knocked down a peg or two. He definitely needs a bit of a reality check. But I think when you've got the likes of your Barcelonas, your Atletico Madrids, your PSGs, some of the massive clubs around Europe, if they're knocking at your door, is that going to be an even bigger boost to your ego, potentially?
Possibly.
But I can assure you, as soon as he gets into those teams, if he don't start pulling his weight,
he'd be found out, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I'm surprised his agent or someone's not having a word in his ear saying, look, you could potentially ruin your career here. You need to watch what you're doing.
I think they just see there's another transfer coming, more money in my pocket, don't they?
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, he's when he did kick off like that. If you think of like some of the legendary captains of old, you think of the likes of the Puyols, the Philip Lahms, Beckenbauers. They would have rinsed him. Even Jamie Carragher, I reckon, or John Terry would have had a go at him on the pitch. Roy Keane probably would have come out swinging at him.
Absolutely destroy him.
But no one at Arsenal sort of tried to march him away a little bit, but there was no one really stamping the authority on there.
No.
I mean, do you think you've got? I mean, we'll maybe get onto this in the second half of the show. Do you think you've got a natural leader captain in there, or do you think you have to bring one in?
No, do you know what? This is something I've spoken to a few people about, and I've heard a lot of people speaking about. Is the whole Granit Xhaka thing. Obviously, he was nominated as a captain at the start of last season. had a bit of a torrid time with the captaincy, and ended up being out of the frame for his attitude again for a few games. I don't think the results were helping with us getting on his back, but I definitely think potentially he's definitely one that could be in the fold for the captaincy again. Another player that I think could be a definite future captain for Arsenal is Kieran Tierney.
Mm-hmm.
My God, does that guy have passion? He loves his football. I've heard and read stuff about people asking him what he does on his spare time and when he goes out and stuff, and he's come out and said, I don't know, I don't really do it. I stay in and concentrate on my football. And I think there's something very admirable about that, because he wants to give the relatively short career that footballers have in compared to someone that works until they're 65, 70 nowadays. He wants to make everything that he can do everything that he does whilst he's playing football, he wants to be able to do. I know he's had a few injury problems this season. We signed him with a hernia, and then he picked up a freakish shoulder injury, which kept him out for a few games. But since he's been back, my God, he's been absolutely outstanding. And I think potentially he's another one who could be a future captain for Arsenal.
Makes sense. Is that all for your outs?
That's all for me.
One question, that Mike.
I'll go for it.
Go on.
If that's all for your outs, thoughts on David Luiz? I'm surprised that he's not on there after he's had
he's just signed a new contract,
turmoil. Yeah, but he's had a turmoil season. I mean, he only had a 1 year deal anyway.
He's a record setter.
No, he had a 2-year deal.
A 2-year deal.
Yeah, so it was a 1 year with a choice to extend. And I think given the current crisis, with his experience, whether he gets to play a lot next season, that remains to be seen, because we're going to talk about this more within the ins part. But obviously we've got that William Saliba, who's signed for us last year. He's now come back in, so I think the view is for him to be more of the first choice defender. Don't forget, we've also got the likes of Mustafi, who got injured unfortunately at the end of the last season. He's come on leaps and bounds under Mikel Arteta, and I think with his experience, he's got a winning mentality. One of the first things he said when he coming to us is that he wants to come in and win things, and he's won an FA Cup in his first season with us. He does frustratingly have errors in his game. But I think with his knowledge, he can definitely bestow that on the future of Arsenal defenders. And I think he's going to be valuable for us next season.
Cool. And with that, we shall move on to Phil.
Believe the Bannerman.
The champions.
Oh, shut up. No, not anymore, they ain't. New season.
No, we're champions still. We're still champions of the world. We're still current.
Oh, get off with the Mickey Mouse
Champions
trophy.
League.
You might as well be. That's pretty much done what you've done, isn't it, Mike? I've won this. Let's get a trophy. Come on. We need to celebrate it properly.
Oh, we've got several now. We've got more in the trophy cabinet, so that's fine. Absolutely happy with that.
Fall apart next season.
It comes to a point, though. What do you do with a team that have won the championship? How can you get rid of people? And unfortunately, there are people to go. There is a bit of deadwood around the fringes that you can get rid of, clear away to make an even better season. So there's definitely room for improvement, especially up until we'd won the championship. We only lost one game. So for me, the first on my list is Lovren, who thankfully has now gone. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Oh, so
as good as he can be, he was also a liability in our back four whenever he was on the pitch, and that showed it quite a few times when he was targeted by attackers and unfortunately would make errors leading to chances on goal and then itself goals. So not a loss for me, to be fair, to see him going out the door, which is great, and the money's been lovely reinvested, so happy days there. Keepers, Karius, he's still on the books, but I do want to see him disappear off those. He is not a great goalkeeper. I don't think he's had a great time out on loan. The teams he struggled to get in any team that he's played in so far. So I'll stick with him being taken off the books somehow, even if it's just another loan or a small fee, just get him out of it. And we've got Lallana, end of contract. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's done much in the last year. I know he's had a few injuries and been pegged back a little bit, and with other players being available, like Oxlade-Chamberlain, Naby Keita, Wijnaldum, Henderson, so forth and so forth, I would never pick Lallana in front of them. He has his day, but I think he's coming towards the end of his career. So as he's signed for Brighton, I think that's a good place for him to go and try and add something in the sea's twilight of his career out. Shaqiri, he's another guy I think should disappear now. He has got some moments of absolutely amazing skill. From the Euros, I think maybe 2 Euros again, he was an absolutely amazing player, causing some great trouble. And it was great that we got him after Stoke went down. He did add some good quality in that first season or so, but this season he's not making it into the team, and I think we could let him go and reinvest that money into youth or into another big transfer to help beef up that midfield and help out with those fringe players. Alongside that, I would say Harry Wilson. He was on loan last year and the last few years, and the more I see of him, he's an absolutely fantastic free kick and set piece player, and scored some amazing goals last season. What a way on loan, but I don't think he has got what it takes to be in the team 100% and fight for a place amongst all the other midfield players that we've got there. So to see him go wouldn't be a too bad thing. I mean, he's come up through the youth ranks, so we could get some good money for it. I think the talk's around 20 million for him at the moment. So if we could get someone in the region of that would be good. Take that money, again, reinvest in either into the youth team or put it towards another player who can actually come on and, I would say, fight more for a starting place. Then the one thing I would say is a question mark is Adrian, the backup goalkeeper. This might surprise a few people, but I think he did have some good moments, but I think he could have done better. For what he was thrown in at the beginning of the season with, there was errors there. There were always goals in those games, even though we still won the games and had the firepower and the forward attacking ability to do that. I just think there's some mistakes there in him. He can, and there's a few shots that you think, actually, if it was Alisson, that's not a goal, and it would be fine. So I'm a bit concerned about him. Who else am I thinking out? No, they've got quite a few youth players, but I'll speak to them about them in a little bit. But for me, as champions, there's quite a lot I want to keep staying. So the front three, I would love to see stay again, because they have just been fantastic this year, and I think again they scare any defence. But I would actually like to see one person going in the front, and that's Origi. Since lockdown, we started again after lockdown, I don't think he's been the same player. Beforehand, at the beginning of the season, when he had a few chances, like the Everton game, he was amazing. He'd come on, score goals. Champions League final, he'll come on, he'll score goals. But there are other games where he just disappears. He goes out on the left and he doesn't really do much. And he gets a bit lost, and you think, could we have someone better there? I know he's still young. From what I saw of him when he first came onto the scene, I thought, well, he could be an amazing player. He had a great potential. I just don't think he has lived up to that potential. I think there are other players that could come in and do more for us as a backup. So I will put Origi on my out list.
I think as Liverpool goes, you've got quite a nice problem in you've got a fair bit of squad depth. It's just a case of trying to get rid of a couple of those squad players to improve the quality of it. Yeah. Which is a nice problem to have. I'm interested to see your ins, because I think that's got to be a lot of where Liverpool come from to try and compete. When you look at the benches of, if you look at the starting lineups of Man City and Liverpool, you both go quality. then when you start to look at the benches, it's Man City's you'd go, I'd rather have that bench. Where Liverpool, I think that's now where you aim. You've got that first team spot on, and they just trying to fill in the gaps and improve that little bit of game changes when it needs to. So
that's exactly it. So Lallana's still from the old regime. He was brought in by Rodgers. So you've got to think, getting these players out who have been in the been at the squad now for 5 years or so after their contracts, and actually getting in, reinvesting that into those new players that can actually come on and do something more and add a bit more spice and a bit more excitement to the game and actually push the other players even further.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, Mo's going to start every week and Mane's going to start every week. Do you want someone who could actually potentially fight them for a place? And if they're getting tired, which we were come March time, I think some of our players were very leggy, and we could bring some people on to give a bit more. And I totally agree with you. It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd rather be sitting in your shoes. But I think something that's done Liverpool a real favour, especially with outgoing transfers this year, is the coronavirus and that impact it's had on the economy globally. Because that front three, I can see, could have seen the likes of Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, PSG coming in for them. But where obviously we've had this big economic crisis now, I feel a bit like you've got more chance of keeping them. Because when we went up to Liverpool, we went up to Liverpool,
all the 100 million, 150 million pound checkbooks coming out, are you, for players? It's going to be a lot lower.
Yeah, but so we went up to Liverpool, and when you're at Anfield, that part of it is all right, but the rest of it is a bit of a shithole. So you think when you go to say, do I want to live in Liverpool or do I want to live in Madrid? Let me think about this one. Do I want to live in Munich or do I want to live in Liverpool? So I think that would have been, I think, the pull for them. Is the money's not going to be much different. I couldn't imagine. I imagine they're all fairly well paid, and deservedly so. But I just feel like that would have pulled them away of actually I can live in a bit more of a luxurious place with nicer weather. And do the same thing.
If you look at the north, west here, and I think a lot of players all live around the same area. They don't actually live inside Liverpool.
No,
they all live like where the Manchester United players are, the Man City players are. They all live in a similar place in these lovely, massive houses out in the countryside, where it's all nice. They've got all the modern cons and everything else like that. And they've got the London flats and so forth. They can travel around. So, I think if you want to come and play in the Premier League, you'll want to come and play for a certain few teams nowadays. You might, if you want to play in London, you'll say Chelsea, Arsenal are probably your top two that you'd go to. If you want to play up at North, you probably say your Man City and Liverpool nowadays. They've got the most potential to go on and win something than any other team now.
I would take objection with that. Whilst I think you do have a bit more clout about you, I really don't think you can write off Man United. Man United's a brand, regardless of how well they've done the last couple of seasons. Literally, I think they could have finished 9th or 10th and they'd still bring in a big name player. I really, really do. I disagree with you.
They're always spending sort of 300+ million, aren't they? They've got the money to throw about. I think that in the coming seasons, though, we'll see that change. I think Ed Woodward will take a step backwards. I think he'll still run the business side of it, a very clever businessman, but in terms of footballing brain, I don't think he's got one. But I think, as we saw at the end of the season, that front three for Man United are very young and they look phenomenal. So if they can sort out some of the other problems, then they're going to be back with a shout next year, I think. I do make you right there.
One of the just had a couple of questions for you, Phil, just in relation to you said about Origi and Adrian.
Yeah.
Now, I think one of the things, personally, I think is going to be difficult for you guys is if you do get rid of those players. As you said, Origi's proven himself in the Champions League at the highest level, coming in, scoring goals. And Adrian, he did have, I think it was the start of the season, wasn't it, when Alisson was injured. And granted, he did have a couple of howlers, but I think the issue that you're going to have potentially next season is because of how well your first 11 did, if there's not many changes to your squad in terms of ins, my question would be, would you want to get rid of Adrian if there's because no one's going to want to come in and play second fiddle?
No, and that's the sort of question mark I have over him is, who would you have to bring in to replace him? He's a very well experienced goalkeeper.
We trained him well.
He did a great job at the beginning of the season. Yeah, I think we've done a great stealing him from West Ham when he could have potentially improved your season if he was still there.
Yeah, oh, definitely, most definitely.
So of all goalkeepers there, I don't think he's too bad. I mean, he did a fantastic job setting up for when Alisson did get injured in the first game. But it just depends on who else is there. I don't think we could there is no point getting another number one goalkeeper. It's always going to be a number two. Do you look to the youth team, or do you just stay with Adrian and see the contract out?
It's one of those that if he doesn't go, it's not the end of the world. But if you can then improve on it, then by all means get him out the door. Should we go in reverse order this time? Should we start with Phil Wins? We're on the screen.
Yep.
Come on then, give us your ins, Phil. Who have you seen that you've been rumoured to be linked with, and who would you like to come in?
So first of all, we've had one signing, which is amazing this week. The Greek Kostas Temiskas, I believe it's pronounced, come in to challenge Robertson for his position at left back. I think it's one of the areas where we were lacking some backup. So if Robertson with injury, we'd normally go to Milner, or even bring in the right back over and push it over there like Gomez or.
You've got that left sided midfielder. So sorry to interrupt. I believe the pronouncement is Larouchi. He's a left-sided midfield defensive wing back. Have you seen him play in your youth team? Because he's quality.
No, to be fair, mate.
I think I don't know whether it's too soon to bring him in, but because he's like 18, but he looks like he's going to give Robbo a run for his money. Sorry to interrupt.
Give another 2 years.
Okay.
I'd say this 18 again, a bit too young, but again, this he's only early 20s, so he's got some proven talent. I think we were looking at Jamil. I can't remember his last name from Norwich. Their left back, Jamil Lewis. That's the guy. But Norwich wanted 20 million for him, and to be fair, we paid 8 million for Robbo, and to pay 20 million for a backup left back who's not got much experience. He's played in the Premier League for one season, but you've got Tomiskas, who's played in the Champions League. He's played at a high level now in Greece and other teams for quite a while. So he's got a lot of experience he can draw on, which will help. And he's willing and wanting to play to the philosophy that we've got to push onwards. So I'm happy with that. I think it'll be good to see him and challenge Robbo. And so when he does get tired, I know he's absolutely got a machine in him, but there are times when he's not going to be playing. I think, well, again, when we won the championship, his head went a bit funny. I don't know if he was feeling the effects of a few beers.
He's Scottish, isn't he?
But he had a good time celebrating anyone. I think he had a few mare moments at the end of the season, which if he could have been replaced, it would have been absolutely fine with. So who else? We would have been heavily linked with, is it Thiago? Thiago from Bayern Munich.
Yep.
Absolutely world-class central midfielder. Would be interesting to see him come in. I think he would make a difference to push the squad even more. I think if you've got like Ronaldo, Naby Keita there, even Henderson, I think he could play alongside those players and even fight for their positions and push some of them out. So I think he will add a little bit more because he's very well experienced at Bayern. He's won pretty much everything you can think of there. So the way the playing style, I think it could add some good stuff if it comes in. But if the price is right, that's the thing. You've got to look, see we don't get taken advantage of just because we've won the league. We've got a bit of money behind the club. Who says we're going to pay 60, 80 odd million pound for a player just because we feel that they could add like maybe an extra 5-10%, something's very small. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. There's also been links. These are other ones I found that quite interesting. So you've got Sarr. I think he's an incredible young player. You saw absolute glimpses, especially against us this season, where he'd done absolutely magnificent, destroyed teams at times. But there was no consistency there. There was times when he thought, no, is he there? Does he need a bit more coaching to bring him on and do that every game? He's still young. But then would he come into our team? Would he be able to push and fight for a position? There's potential there. There is potential. But again, I think they bought him for 25 million. They've gone down. If you can get him for a similar cost, then yeah, it could well be a good purchase. But if they're asking 40, 50, 60 million, then you would have to question it really in today's market. You think that could well just be a bit too much. And then this afternoon, I think TalkSport were talking about actually leave Sarr alone and go for Wilfried Zaha. He's a good attacking forward. And I was like, but no. Crystal Palace will want, 70, 80 million for him still?
I think they've dropped it to about 30 mil.
30?
Because he's had such a bummer of a season.
Yeah.
They're not doing well financially, are they? So.
Yeah, I don't... As good as a player he is, I think it stands out more so in teams like Crystal Palace, where he is a step above most other players there. He does get in all the time and he can drag the team forward and make a difference. He is a nuisance to any defender. But then when you've got likes of Mane who plays it and Mo who's playing similar positions, you think, I would pick them every day over Zaha. So I would very much say, no, I would miss him. I would skip him out of it for that one. Then we have got Koulibaly. Now this isn't a very interesting one. I think he's got the interest of several clubs across Europe. And although he could be quite an expensive purchase, I think he is an outstanding central defender. And if you had him alongside Virgil van Dijk, that would be an absolutely insane central pair, and you would see less goals for certain. But my only reservation is the price, 100 million euros. Are you going to see that in this market as 100 million euros worth it for another central defenders? I know Van Dijk was almost that, but that was several years ago. Markets changed, and if there are other teams competing with you and going to be putting 100 million in, do you really want to pay that? So he is on my list of would love it if he could come in, but if we don't and we choose to skip it, fair enough. That's fine with me. And the last one for me, we have got a young Brazilian wonder kid, Thales Magno, I think he's called, that we've been linked to recently. He seems to be an exciting 18-year-old Brazilian kid who's apparently could be the next Neymar, being linked to him. So it'd be interesting to see if that happens. There's another youth team player to put in and see what Klopp could do with him for the next 2 or 3 years and then gradually bring him into the team. But saying that, there's a few wins there, but then we've got, I think, quite a few young players that we could bring into the team this year from our youth team. So we've got Williams, you've got Curtis Jones you saw last year, Harvey Elliott, and Rhian Brewster. I think this season could be a big year for these young players to actually start fighting for and getting positions, getting more time in the first squad and actually really making a difference as well, because I think they can, especially like likes of Curtis Jones. After the few games that he played in last season, he was absolutely fantastic. You've got Minamino. He's still got to come in and he can really embed a bit further into the team. He's only been in for a few months and I expect him to progress even more and be a threat next year as well. I think there's more to come and I think that Liverpool looking in quite good shape.
Fair enough. Right.
Can I just ask a question on your youth?
Yeah.
Just touching on what you've just said there. Do you honestly think that, I know you've now got what's the expression, the duck off your back or whatever it is, the fact that you've now won the Premier League first time in 30 years, there's obviously going to be some sort of expectance from the Liverpool fans that they maintain that high level of intensity of how you played last season. Obviously, coming into lockdown,
last 2 seasons. Right?
Okay, last 2 seasons then. Do you honestly think the next year is going to be the best year to break through more academy players, or do you think you're going to have to go for I say instant success, as in you're going to have to spend a bit of money to kind of keep your players? Because let's be honest, all the players are getting older. I know there's going to be changes in way systems are played and stuff like that, because potentially you're going to get found out next year if you stick to the same way as what you have been playing. So do you think that there is going to be more opportunity for youth or younger players to come through next season?
I think there's more opportunity for these players, definitely. I think the way that they've shown themselves, so Klopp gave them some game time at the end of the season, and I don't think they disappointed. They played exceptional. They really did. They got goals. They made a difference. They were pushing even to the last seconds of games, making a difference, and that's against established Premier League teams. So these kids have been around for a few years. They've been building up to them, and I think it's about time. Yeah, you can't wait forever, as you say. Players are getting older, so you can actually bring them in, even if it is up 60 minutes, 45 minutes towards the beginning, towards the middle of the season. But then as the season gets longer, especially December, January, February, when you've got so many games to play, it'll be a very important time for them then as well, because they can come in, hit the ground running and do it. So they've got a few games of experience now, and I think they can only improve on that. There wasn't too many negatives from the games that I saw them playing. I think they were absolutely outstanding, and I think that some of these players are ready, and that they will only just get better and improve, and will get in and start challenging. Okay. You have to, in some occasions like this, you have to put the trust into your youth and give them an opportunity. Otherwise, yeah, you will. You end up spending ridiculous amounts of money just continuously on established players, but then do you know that established player will come to your team and actually do what you expect of them, or will they just flop over?
Yeah, that's a good point.
What he doesn't want is next season, if they're still competitive, us to be able to say, well, you just thrown money at the problem and now look at it.
At the same time, though, if we can rib him if it's
rubbish,
if it's if the youth are shit, we can come back to this video and say, look, this is what you said.
Yeah, very good.
Right, there's some quality players there. Just have a look back and you'll see some good goals.
Just remember that Aston Villa game, that quality that was there. Right, that
wasn't even our youth team with Ian. That was like our under-18 team.
Let's move on to Arsenal, shall we?
Yeah, no worries.
Go for it.
Right, so the first one, I think it's been the worst kept secret of the transfer window so far. Willian, coming in from Chelsea, is looking increasingly likely that this deal is going to go through very shortly. There have been talks about the Arsenal social media team, or the Arsenal media team, have been out preparing a release video for him. And I have heard rumours that potentially he's going to be announced tomorrow with another potential signing towards the end of the week.
Roberto.
Sorry?
Roberto in goal.
Yeah, man. Definitely.
He's coming.
He's not knocking off...
the relegator.
Yeah. No, I have seen a lot of people kind of bad mouthing this transfer personally, and you can look on my Twitter accounts. It's either here or there. I think
it's still below you.
Okay, yeah. Twitter handles down below if you want to follow us on social media, where I have gone out and been quite vocal about this transfer. Personally, I think it's a brilliant transfer for us. He's got pace. He's a good creative player. He can dribble, and he's got goals in him. I was looking at some stats over his 7-year Chelsea career, and last year was his best career best performance in a Chelsea shirt, I think, for assists and goals. Granted, he has just turned 32, but we've seen the likes of Jamie Vardy last year, Golden Boot winner. We've seen Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang just turned 31, I think it is. 1 goal off getting the Golden Boot. I think Willian's got potentially a couple of years left in him that he can definitely make a difference to this team. There was also talks about him playing a more central role, kind of like a number 10. But again, because of his passing and his dribbling ability, that he'll be able to put in some balls to whoever's up top, or potentially get a goal himself. And he's a free transfer. He's apparently taken a pay cut to come to us. We've obviously given him a good pitch. I think people just need to embrace this transfer because I think he's going to do brilliant in the Arsenal shirt. The second transfer I want to talk about is the signing that is potentially going to be announced towards the end of the week. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, looking to sign him up on a 3-year deal.
I've not heard of him.
No.
Say that again. What's his name? How'd you say it?
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
I'll get that wrong for at least 6 months. Aubameyang.
Yeah, so obviously this is one that Arsenal fans are desperate for. Again, it's kind of been a bit of a crap secret. There are links that have said that he's already signed the extension. They're just trying to draw it all out and all this sort of stuff. There are other rumours that are basically saying that he's waiting to see if the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, or anything come out for offers. He's requested for £250,000 a week with a 3-year deal. Apparently, the lords of all Arsenal have apparently agreed to that. So if we've given him to what he wants, I can't think of any reason as to why he would turn that down. One of the things that he obviously made the club aware is that he wanted to see some ambition. Now, if it's the fact that he is signing the contract, that can only mean as well that Arsenal are putting some ambition and signing some players. Obviously, with the likes of the outs that we've talked about, or that I talked about previously, that's going to potentially free up funds in order to be able to make those transfers. And I think getting him over the line is going to be massively important for us, again, for the next couple of years, because he's got electric pace. He knows where the net is. And I think it's going to cost. It would potentially cost more money to try and replace him with someone that we wouldn't know that works in the Premier League, to someone that's had now 2 and a bit years in the Premier League, and nearly got the Golden Boot on 2 occasions. The third one is one that I think would be a nice to have, but there's been heavily linked rumours about Philippe Coutinho coming to Arsenal. Again, there's been talks that the deal's already been done, personal terms have been agreed. Then there's other ones that state that he wants to concentrate on the Champions League. I think potentially, again, this is another one a load of people have been slagging off, saying that it's potentially a waste of time. And my argument back to that would be is that I think he's a player who's got outstanding quality. As we've seen him at Liverpool, didn't really kick on at Barcelona, hasn't really set the world alight at Bayern Munich, but he still chipped in with goals. And I think with the likes of Mikel Arteta, if he can get a tune out of Mustafi when people call him from his head, and trying to get to call him for his head towards the start of the season, to actually being worried about him missing the FA Cup final. If he can get a tune out of him, I definitely think that there could be something for Philippe Coutinho. But again, I think this one is potentially one that will drag on right up until Bayern Munich are no longer in the Champions League.
Once they won it?
Potentially. But then it'll be down to the player and where he wants to go. I personally think it will be a cracking signing for us. if we can get him.
Be a cracking signing, absolutely. He's an incredible little magician.
And that's the thing. I've actually put on my notes here that I think potentially if we do sign him, he could be the next Santi Cazorla, because I think had Cazorla not picked up that injury that kept him out for 18 months or whatever it was, we definitely could have finished a lot higher than where we did finish with him in the team.
Play more centrally. He doesn't get played, I don't think, very well in Barcelona or Bayern to his best position. And if they did that, they would make it'd be amazing.
You're going to play him in that same sort of role as David Silva or Kevin De Bruyne plays at Man City then?
I think so. I think that's what we're looking to do.
Makes sense.
The next transfer I'm going to speak about is one that kind of seemed to pick up a lot of traction very quickly towards the end of last week. And I apologise now for the pronunciation of his name. It's a guy called Gabriel Magalhaes. Magalhaes.
That's really rude. Can't believe you just said that.
Yeah, okay. Well,
terrible, mate. Give it another go.
He's a defender from Lille. And as I said, they're apparently it's a player that we've been scouting for a little while, and has done really, really well. And apparently from last weekend, from when I was speaking to one of our mates about it, he said, "Oh, have you heard about this transfer?" And I was like, "Yeah, apparently this had happened." So I think it was from Friday when it confirmed that he'd been seen at the club or was discussing personal terms had been agreed or whatever. He was left out of the squad on Saturday. They've removed him from their website, and you can no longer buy his shirt.
Okay, yeah, that points all to a move, whether it's to Arsenal or not, but it does point to he's not there.
That's what I was just about to say. So there are other clubs that have expressed an interest in him. So I think the likes of Everton, Atletico Madrid, I think were one of them. Well, there's a couple of teams that have expressed an interest in signing him up. I think. Again, this is I've tried not to get too caught up in all the rumours and stuff that are going around on social media, but it's so hard not to, because there's been talks about his family have now started following Arsenal on social media, and I know that doesn't mean anything, but I think with this particular one, I think there's kind of like a no smoke without fire. Why haven't they started following it? The likes of Everton, why haven't Manchester United? Because apparently I think that was another club that were linked with him. Why haven't they started following Manchester United? I think he's around about 30 million euros. I personally haven't seen a lot from him other than a couple of videos on YouTube. Looks pretty solid. And I think that would be one that could potentially be nearing completion if it is that he's coming to Arsenal. Another one that we've been, linked with is Thomas Partey. Is a player that Arsenal have been heavily linked with. We've already had 2 bids rejected, and they are looking for whoever the potential suitor would be to pay his full release clause. He's going to be another one that would sit in the midfield area, and I think there are also talks of potential Alex Lacazette potentially being used as a bargaining chip in a potential deal going forwards, and we've already said about Guendouzi, he's also been used as a bargaining chip, but the deal that was put forward first has been rejected. Dani Ceballos is another one that I personally would love to see back at Arsenal next season. He was only on loan for us last year, and I think we are trying to look to get another loan spell for him, potentially with either an obligation to buy or sorry, I just realised he's in work market. Either with an obligation to buy or potentially an option to buy at the end of another loan spell. But I know it's one that Mikel Arteta is definitely wants to have back at Arsenal next season. Since at the start of his Arsenal career, he started off really brightly, then kind of fell by the wayside a bit, and potentially that could be down to Unai Emery. Since Mikel Arteta's come in, and definitely since the break from coming back from COVID, he's been number one in his running stats, passing stats, tackling stats. Literally all of those, he's been number one. I think the only thing he wouldn't obviously come under would be goals and assists. But I think he had an outstanding work rate towards the back end of last season. Definitely helped us get into the FA Cup semi-finals. Played absolutely outstanding in the semi-finals and the finals, and we definitely got to get him over the line. The last one I want to do literally has broken out yesterday or today. Again, this is just kind of like the Arsenal romantic in me. I absolutely love this player when he was playing for us.
Not Aaron Ramsey, is it?
Yes, mate.
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah. He's come out and said that PLO doesn't want him at Juve and they're willing to listen to offers for him. Obviously, the issues are going to be his wages. He's currently on ridiculous wages at the moment. Would there be a possible loan agreement with subsidised wages? I would absolutely love to have him back at the club. I was absolutely gutted when he left, and I would take him back with open arms.
I think that would answer your question as well for where's your captain coming from, because he could walk back into that role without a shadow of a doubt.
Yep. Pipe dreams, that one I can't see happening at all, but I would definitely have him back at the club without a shadow of a doubt.
That's fair enough. I can't think of anything else to add to that, to be fair.
No, that's me done waffling.
You got any questions, Phil?
Would you want to have Aaron Ramsey back, really, after leaving you in in that format? I don't think he left in exactly the best, did he? Just kind of went, that's it, end of my contract, I'm walking away.
I don't think
get a big fat
they didn't offer him
paycheck,
a new one, did they?
and now I'm going to come back.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what happened. They were apparently discussing a new agreement with him, and then decided to pull the contract out from under him. He had, I don't think, any say in wanting to leave. It was just that his contract was up. The club didn't want to continue with him. But I tell you what, I'd fucking have him back in a heartbeat. I really would.
But would he want to come back after being burnt like that?
Potentially not, and that's what I said. It's pipe dreams. It's definitely pipe dreams. But he's one.
I think most Arsenal fans would take him back, though. There's not many players that can come back to a club, but I think he's possibly one of them.
Absolutely.
I have a question, but I'll leave it to the end because I'll ask it to both of you.
Okay. Right. We'll switch scenes one final time. West Ham. I'll do this quick because we're over the hour mark now. So who I've read we've been linked with, Aziz from QPR, the left winger, sort of central attacking midfielder, got a bit of quality about him, scored a lot of goals, got a lot of assists. Good. Josh Maja used to play for Sunderland. Most people would have seen him in that series, Sunderland Till I Die. Now plays for Bordeaux, I think it is. Striker, we need another one, so bringing that makes sense. John Stones from Man City, apparently he's on the way out, especially with Nathan Ake going the other way. And I've read they only want 20 million quid for him. So we've chucked our name in the hat, which would be fantastic. A fellow I've not heard of, Toure from Nantes, is it, in France? I don't know if I've pronounced that right. Defensive midfielder, looks like a brick shit house, so would probably fit that mould quite well. James McCarthy, and again another defensive midfielder from Crystal Palace. And finally, Jack Butland from Stoke, goalkeeper. So they're all the ones I've read that we've been linked with. And there's a couple there who I think we should come in with, which is what we're going to get onto now. First being John Stones. 20 million quid, I think that's a steal, especially for an English centre-back. And I think he may not be Champions League quality, and that comes down more to consistency than anything else. But for us, I think that's one hell of a signing if we can pull it off. Next, I'd go with Aziz from QPR. If we're getting rid of Anderson, we need a left-sided player. He can play sort of as a centre attacking midfielder. He can play as a left winger. He can play on the right. So to have that would be good. And again, another young English player. I just think that's a little bit more sort of, he could start, but strength in depth, if that makes sense. Next up is one I've been saying for a while, and I think we could only manage to do it on loan, and that would be Jovic from Real Madrid.
Yes.
He had a falling out with Zidane. He's not been seen really this season. He's been cast away, but he was a strike partner for Haller, wasn't he? At Frankfurt. So why not bring him in? Haller only seems to be able to play with a strike partner. We know Jovic can score goals because he was scored 30 goals in that season that they both left Frankfurt. Why not at least try and bring him on loan? Next two, I was actually looking forward to seeing in the Premier League, but unfortunately they lost the playoff final to Fulham. Ben Rama and Ollie Watkins, both versatile players, both good attacking players, and I think that's partly where we've got to go for next season. We need more goals. Ben Rama seems to be skillful. In the Championship, he's known as the Nutmeg King, so just a bit of flair in there. They both seem to be fairly consistent. I know obviously Brentford are a different team, so transferring that over and against better opposition may not be a perfect outcome, but it would still be good. And the last one who I would like to see us bring in would be Matty Cash from Nottingham Forest. He's a right back / midfielder. Fantastic player. Seems to be social media savvy, and does a lot of charitable work and stuff like that. So I think it's another good player to bring in. He's a good influence in that side of things. And it also would mean that we could get rid of the likes of Ryan Fredericks, who hasn't done terribly, but he's not great, which is how we got him on a free transfer. We tried to sign Matty Cash last summer and it didn't quite come off. And then we tried again in January. Again, it didn't come off. So I think push it over the line, get it done. And it's a quality player who is very versatile that we can bring in and, add to that squad depth. I think David Moyes is the perfect manager in a sense in terms of transfers. He worked at Everton for years with little to no transfer budget and kept them consistently in a top sort of 8. So this is not a new game. The concern would be is that the owners who are fickle and say one thing but do the other. It's a lot of cloak and dagger, it seems to be. I've stood up for them in the past saying they've done very well, but I feel like they're after a quick couple of paydays. You think you get rid of the likes of Anderson, Declan Rice, and a couple of the others, cash in quick and then get out. And I think that's the concern of a lot of West Ham fans, is that's what they're going to do. They're going to go, thank you very much, there's 8 million quid for Declan Rice, now we're going to sell the club for 50 million quid, or whatever it is, and away we go. And you still owe us £500 million worth of debt. So that's the concern. But I think they've realised if they don't keep putting money in, it come very close this year to us being relegated, and that's a ridiculous loss in revenue. So I think they know if they do sell Declan Rice, unless they are going to get out the club, the fans are going to turn, and chances are we will get relegated. So I think they've got to put in some money again this year, as they did last year. But they've got a better manager in this time. I don't know why they got rid of him to bring in Pellegrini. I feel like it was a mistake. But yeah, so a couple of loans, but mostly all Championship players who I feel could make that step up. I've not really gone unrealistic there as to who we could bring in. I think the most unrealistic one is John Stones. I think that's going to take a bit of convincing to come to us. If you could pull off a couple of other sort of fancy signings as well, say, look, there's a convincer, we are putting money in, then fantastic. But other than that, I feel like, where did he come from? Everton?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can see him going back there, to be fair. You think they're not really any chance of them getting relegated. They've got the good manager in Carlo Ancelotti. They've got a brand new stadium coming. You know, that's a chance to go back home where he grew up and push on and become a club legend.
I don't think he will, though. I don't think he'll be able to get in that team. We've got Mina and the other young kid now, centre-backs, who I don't think he would challenge.
I don't know. I reckon he'd be there or thereabouts. Certainly, he's one of those who has been injured a couple of times, so you've got to take that into account. It fits the mould of a West Ham player. Let's pay him lots of money, and he's sitting in the physio room for the next year. So that's the only concerning point. But other than that, you say when he is playing, it's going to be at that right level, sort of mid to top table club, which is where we should be aiming for. Minimum is sort of top of the table, and I think he could push us there. The other thing I would say is our youth team is fantastic. They won the Premier League 2, couple of double-figure goal scorers in now. So I feel like there's a number of them who should be given opportunities. A lot of them made appearances on the bench but didn't come on at the end of the season. But I think that's more out of desperation of we had to turn out results. There couldn't be that risk. And if they did take that risk, then obviously there's issues there because fans are going to turn on them before their careers started. Two examples of that, people coming through. Yeah, go on. And to be fair, Ian, and then there's nothing. What?
Sorry, I just went robotic and paused. But to say, the end of the season, those last 3 or 4 games, West Ham looked a completely different team compared to the rest of the season, which I think would put any fan in good stead going into the next season. If you can keep that up, then you would expect a completely different season. And when you, rather than fighting for the bottom, you are fighting for that mid-table position.
But it was the effort. It was the effort level, and that we saw that the first time David Moyes came in, the effort level changed. I feel like there's a number of clubs who are going to go down next season. Crystal Palace being one of them. I feel they're coming to the end of their Premier League career. When you look at the likes of, they are trying to get rid of Wilfried Zaha, who's arguably the only reason they've stayed up, and he had an absolute stinker of a season, yet he still kept them up. But say for us, Ben Johnson, Jemmy and Gakia come through and that like the ilk of those players who were fantastic and could be Premier League players. If we've got that coming in our youth ranks, why are we not utilising it? You know, push more of it. Zande Silva come through. We signed him a couple of years ago, but he's been in the youth ranks double figures every year. And it's just, I can't remember the fella's name. There was a geezer a couple of years ago who played in the Premier League 2 and was scoring 2 to 4 goals every game. He never got a first team appearance. And that was when we was crying out for a striker under Bilic. And it was like, what this geezer's scoring for fun down there. Give him a chance, you know? But yeah, so I think a mix of only a couple. I think there's a lot of deadwood in our squad. A lot of injury-stricken players and a lot of players who are on a lot of money who don't put in the effort and don't deserve that money. So we need to shift them on and bring in some others. But yeah, that's it for me, really. Oh, we did sign Souček. He's already confirmed. He had an option to sign in his contract if we stayed up, and I think that's a brilliant signing.
Yeah,
he looks quality.
Brilliant for you guys. He ended the season so strong.
Any questions on the West Ham squad?
I'm surprised Phil hasn't made a recommendation for Antonio going out, because didn't you say he was shit, Phil?
Oh, I'm pretty sure he did. That Antonio is probably shit, and he last bit of the season, top goal scorer, when he player of the month.
Do you know, I made this comment on 10 minutes of play that I watched him, and I thought, do you know what? He's looking terrible at that time for those first 10 minutes of the game, and then he went on to score goals in later on in that game, and it was a completely different situation.
Luckily for Phil, it wasn't the Watford game, because that would have looked really silly where he scored 4 goals. But yeah, no, but I think Antonio, he's a workhorse, but that shows that there wasn't that quality about. The game you're referring to, if I remember correctly, Lanzini and Fornal started, and Lanzini was having a stonker. So that's the reason why I say if there's a crowd there, they can get his back.
At the time, and I was like, this is over here. He wasn't getting the feed and the drive, the service. I mean, he was just walking around. I was like, he looks terrible at the start of this game. But then things changed in the second half of the game, and I think he scored that game as well. So it did change, and it has come back and bit me. But then if I didn't say it, would he have done that?
Yes. 100%. 100%. What I will say though is, say, new season coming. We've had a bit of a funny one, considering obviously this season it was our first full season in to the Premier League. We've had a change of format a couple of times. We've had a coronavirus stuff. We've had all sorts going on. So next year, 2021, FDT-TV is going to be the one for us. So make sure you're subscribed. Follow us on Twitter. They're all below us. Have been all video. Let us know what you think.
Exactly. Join the conversation. Tell us about your teams. Who do you think would be great transfer in your team? Who do you want out of your team? It'd be great to hear from.
There is one player who should be in every team.
Who's that?
You've been literally waiting all of this chat to get that in.
Yep.
And you've done it. Well done.
Well done.
So yeah, that.
Although I think he might need a wheelchair soon because he's getting a bit on the age side.
Mate, I'd take him every day of the week.
So would I, actually, to be fair.
He's good for goals, no matter what team he gets into. He's good for goals.
It'd be interesting to revise these predictions and lists come the sort of end of transfer deadline day and see how many we've got right. But yeah, it was Phil said and commented. Put in the comment section below who you think might sign, what you want to sign.
I do want to ask you both one question.
Oh, go on.
Your team was given 200 million to buy any player. Who would you buy?
200 million?
Me.
Yeah. I wouldn't buy one player though.
No, to spend on one player. You had 200 million.
You've got to spend 200 million pounds on
one player. Yeah. Who would that player be?
Peter Crouch.
I'd probably go with Chorluka.
That's a bit of a random question. I like where you're going with it, but is any player worth 200 million nowadays?
Mbappe?
I wouldn't spend 200 million on him.
No,
and he wouldn't be my choice.
No, but I feel like that is a question that would lead to financial fair play issues. Where's this 200 million coming from?
Sponsorship from from someone within the company. Anyway, I think we should do that on another conversation. We've droned on long enough.
We've been going for an hour and a half.
To leave your thoughts on.
So I think we'll leave you there, you lovely people. If you've made it this far in the video, then I think
thank you very much.
You should press like and also comment the word bumder in the comments.
Hashtag bumder.
Hashtag bumder. Until then, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
I've been Phil.
We are FDT-TV. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Good night.